Here's my preview of the Baylor at Texas Tech football game. And this is already a sellout game, and it's going to be blackout. And the Ring of Honor inductee will be Patrick Mahomes for this game. So keep that in mind. Offensively, they run an air raid offense, 36.7 points per game. They do average 363.6 passing yards per game and 136.3 rushing yards per game. But they're going to throw the ball more. And there's a lot in this game. I got a feeling the average offensive line has a lot of 60 tackles for loss, 24 sacks, 29 pass breakups, and 36 quarterback hurries. They have 13 turnovers on the year, 10 interceptions, 3 fumbles, but 7 of those interceptions came from one guy, and he's not even playing that much anymore. 204 first downs, time possession, 31 minutes, 13 seconds, 42 for 116 on third down, and 24 32 on fourth down. So they will go for it on fourth down, for sure. The average 2 or 3 deep offensive line is 312.27 pounds. I honestly have no idea who's going to start at Texas Tech at quarterback, but I'm going to list all 3 guys. Tyler Shug, he's probable with his shoulder injury that he suffered early on in the year. Number 12, 6'5", 230-pound quarterback. 6 completions out of 10 attempts for 154 yards with 1 touchdown. The long is 39 yards and 1 rushing attempt for 17 yards. Donovan Smith, number 7, 6'5", 230-pound quarterback. That's a sophomore. 147 completions out of 219 attempts for 1,505 yards with 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And 68 rushing attempts for 96 yards with 4 touchdowns. This is by far the least scariest quarterback on there because he will throw picks, as you can tell by those numbers. But who's been starting recently? Baron Morton. Number 2, 6'2", 210-pound quarterback. That's a freshman. 78 completions out of 124 attempts for 886 yards with 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, longest 55 yards, and 29 rushing attempts for 68 yards with 1 touchdown, the longest 15 yards. Some running backs to keep an eye on, like Sir Roger Thompson, number 4, 6 foot, 220-pound running back. That's a senior. 79 rushing attempts for 369 yards with 3 touchdowns and 15 receptions for 73 yards with 1 touchdown. Tosh Brooks, number 28, 5'10", 230-pound running back. That's a junior. 70 rushing attempts for 322 yards with 6 touchdowns and 20 receptions for 111 yards with 1 touchdown. A third running back to keep an eye on is like Bryson Donald, number 22, 5'10", 215-pound running back. That's a freshman. 16 rushing attempts for 72 yards. They do have a lot of quality, good wide receivers, though. Xavier White, number 14, 6 foot, 109-pound wide receiver. That's a senior. 31 receptions for 409 yards with 3 touchdowns. Jerron Bradley, number 9, 6'5", 215-pound wide receiver. That's a freshman. 27 receptions for 359 yards with 3 touchdowns. Miles Price, who's probable with an ankle injury, number 1, 5'10", 180-pound wide receiver. That's a junior. 31 receptions for 309 yards with 2 touchdowns. Trey Cleveland, number 10, 6'4", 190-pound wide receiver. That's a junior. 21 receptions for 309 yards. Nehemiah Martinez the first, number 20, or Martinez, yeah. 5'9", 205-pound wide receiver. That's a sophomore. 23 receptions for 263 yards with 2 touchdowns. And 1 rushing attempt for 6 yards. Luke, Founji. I don't want to butcher that last name. Number 19, 6'4", 210-pound wide receiver. That's a junior. 17 receptions for 231 yards with 3 touchdowns. Probable with the thumb injury is J.J. Smarkman, number 6, 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver. That's a sophomore. 11 receptions for 104 yards. They do throw it to some tight ends, though. Mason Tharp, number 80, 6'9", 260-pound with tight end. That's a sophomore. 9 receptions for 97 yards with 1 touchdown. Baylor Cup, number 88, 6'6", 250-pound tight end. That's a junior. 8 receptions for 94 yards with 1 touchdown. Brady Boyd, number 13, 6'1", 195-pound wide receiver. That's a sophomore. 9 receptions for 92 yards with 1 touchdown. Henry Teeter is another tight end. Number 43, 6'4" 245-pound tight end. That's a senior. 3 receptions for 52 yards. The long is 23 yards, by the way. Now, defensively, they run a 3-3-5. And their motto is take three, just like what Joey McGuire had what Baylor had with Joey McGuire in the past. So, as in turnovers, they allow 27 points per game. They allow 218.9 passing yards per game, which can be skewed because they did give up a lot of passing yards to Oklahoma State in that loss in Stillwater. 136 rushing yards per game, which can be a little bit skewed too because remember the two teams they struggle against running against stopping them are the following: Texas with 151 rushing yards per game, a little over 5 yards per carry, and Kansas State with over 200 or 300 yards, which I'll go into further detail about those two games in particular. And this after I'm done with all this. They allow 120 first downs. They force 10 turnovers, 5 interceptions, 5 fumbles, 44 tackles for loss, 16 sacks, 24 pass breakups, 26 quarterback hurries. They have blocked 2 kicks. Time possession defensively at 27 minutes, 58 seconds. Third down defense, 34 for 104. Fourth down defense, 448. The average 2 or 3 deep defensive line weight is 288.57 pounds. 2 or 3 deep by nose tackle slash defensive tackle, 295 pounds, but 2 or 3 deep at the edge position is 272.5 pounds. And they do have a few NFL guys, I believe, that are ready for the NFL next year. They do have a few guys on this list, or some guys on this list. Keyshawn Merriweather, number 1, 6 foot, 235-pound linebacker. That's a senior. 55 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 6 quarterback hurries, and 2 forced fumbles. Tyree Wilson, number 19, 6 foot 6 inch, 275-pound outside linebacker. That's a senior. 41 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Kelsey Aldridge, number 6, 6 foot, 230-pound linebacker. That's a senior. 36 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 1 quarterback hurry. Dedrion Taylor Demerson, number 25, 5 foot 11 inch, 195-pound defensive back. That's a senior. 36 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. Marcus Waters, number 9, 6 foot 1 inch, 215-pound defensive back. That's a senior. 31 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hurries. Jalen Hutchings, number 95, 6 foot, 310-pound defensive lineman. That's a senior. 25 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hurries. Reggie Pearson Jr., number 2, 5 foot 11 inch, 200-pound defensive back. That's a senior. 25 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, and 1 fumble recovery. Rashad Williams, number 0, 6 foot 3 inch, 195-pound defensive back. That's a senior. 17 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 interception, and 7 pass breakups. Notice, most of these guys right now are seniors that are contributing really good right now this year for Texas Tech. Philip Beatty, Bolidi, number 96, 6 foot 3 inch, 295-pound defensive lineman. That's a junior. 16 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 1 quarterback hurry. Jacob Rodriguez, number 13, 6 foot 1 inch, 235-pound linebacker. That's a sophomore. 16 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hurries, and 1 forced fumble. Malik Dunlap, number 24, 6 foot 3 inch, 215-pound defensive back. That's a senior. 13 tackles, 0.5 tackles for loss, 1 pass interception, 8 pass breakups. Tony Bradford Jr., number 97, 6 foot 1 inch, 300-pound defensive lineman. That's a senior. 13 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 2 quarterback hurries. Josiah Pierre, number 8, 6 foot 2 inch, 245-pound junior, 13 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, and 1 pass breakup. And now I'm going to just go over a few more guys, but are mostly like defensive linemen on the list to me that are notable. Miles Cole, number 5, 6 foot 6 inch, 285-pound defensive lineman. That's a senior. 8 tackles, 0.5 tackles for loss. Kobe Minor, number 3, 6 foot, 185-pound sophomore, 5 tackles, and 1 pass breakout. Only reason why I mention him, he's like a 2 deep at defensive back or corner. Joseph Aldiriri, Number 43, 6'3" 270-pound defensive lineman. That's a freshman. 5 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 1 quarterback hurry. Dimitri Moore, number 11, 6'3" 235-pound linebacker. That's a senior. 4 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack. Vidal Scott Jr., number 42, 6'1", 285-pound defensive lineman. That's a senior. 2 tackles, and 1 tackle for loss. Special teams wise, Austin McNamara, number 31, 6'4", 195-pound punter or place kicker. It doesn't matter. That's a senior. 25 punts for 1,103 yards. The average is like 44.1 yards, and the longest 65 yards. 7 of those have been over 50 yards, and 9 punts have been inside the 20-yard line. Trey Wolf is the most commonly used kicker this year, so I'm not going to even mention Gino Garcia. So y'all can check that out in the description below. Trey Wolf has made 23 out of 23 on extra points and 10 for 13 on field goals. 5 for 5 on 20 to 29 yards. 1 for 1 on 30 to 39 yards. 3 for 6 on 40 to 49 yards. 1 for 1 on over 50 yards. The longest 51 yards. And I'm going to mention this about the Oklahoma State game for Texas Tech defensively. They gave up. I'm trying to look at the amount. I know last game they forced 4 turnovers against West Virginia. 3 of those are picks, 1 fumble. So that obviously you can't do that offensively. Yeah, Texas Tech gave up 297 passing yards. So, yeah. Now the Kansas State game, they gave up 343 yards rushing. I mean, which is 8.8 yards per carry on 39 attempts. Now, in the Texas game, in that Texas Tech game, they won by a field goal because Bijan Robinson fumbled the ball in overtime, and then Texas Tech came and scored a field goal to win that game. Texas had 151 rushing yards, which is on 5 yards per carry on 30 attempts. Passing yards, they did give up 277. So I'm not going to say they're bad defensively based on the numbers, but it's kind of got to be a little bit skewed. But they did win time possession against Texas that game pretty significantly. So what must Baylor do in this game? First of all, you got to stay good on special teams. Stay solid. Kick the ball out of the end zone every time. And luckily the winds are not going to be like it was this past weekend down here against Kansas. Because from what I could check, it's less than 9 miles per hour in the wind. Or 8 miles per hour. Granted, it's a long way away, but I'm just saying from this recording, it's not going to be like that. Like the last game. First of all, you got to have good punts that land inside the 20-yard line, specifically in a 10-yard line or 5-yard line. If you need to punt the ball, make field goals, make extra points, execute your blocking. It doesn't matter on extra points, field goals, or punts. You just don't need to have special teams blunders, of course. And when you're receiving, just gotta be smart about it on if you're gonna do a punt return. Same goes for a kickoff return, but of course, if the ball goes over your head, just let it go. So, goes way deep to the end zone. Now, defensively, you should be able to stop the run in this game. You should. And I wouldn't be more worried about the pass defense in this game. And honestly, I would try to use try not to have so many guys in the box for this game, because they're going to throw the ball around. Not just they're going to throw some screens. They're going to throw anything at you. Everything. You name it, they could do it. They're going to throw it everywhere. So, you need to find a way to mix it up a little bit and get a little bit of pressure. But if you can't get to the quarterback, at least if you're the defensive lineman or passer, or who's going to rush the passer, like an outside linebacker or corner, get your hands up and bat the ball down. Bat it down. Of course, force turnovers. That would be helpful. So, That's another thing to do. And limit the big plays as much as you can. So that's it. Though it's going to be a challenge against this pass defense because this pass offense because they throw it all over the place. And you got so you have good tackling in this game as well, especially in open spaces, especially on screens. And if you could force third and longs, that would help. But be prepared to stop them on fourth down in this game. Now, offensively, you got to take care of the ball better than the last two games, for sure. You have to. Try to limit your mistakes as much as you can, especially fumbling the ball. And if you're Blake shaping outside the pocket, maybe if you're not sure you're gonna be able to escape, and it's like second down and 2 or something, and you're in the red zone, why not throw the ball away out of bounds and play another down and then hand it off the next time? So that's another thing to think about. So you got to take care of the ball. You got to establish the running game and show who's the physicality in this game and control the clock so you can keep the Texas Tech offense off the field. And I would prefer not to be in a shootout. In terms they score within 2 minutes, we do too. We don't need to do that. We need to be complementary football for our offense to our defense to give them some rest and win a time possession like you did last game. Obviously, if you would have not had those turnovers and try to catch every pass you can in this game, regardless of the throw. And I will say, they do have some ability. Texas Tech does have some really good pass rushers in this game, so you gotta give them time in the pocket and execute your blocking on all three on the run offense. The same thing goes for the pass protection as well. You gotta be good at running the ball too. Running backs taking the right lanes, or even Doyle going for being a runner at times, as well as maybe in quarterback sneaks especially. And you might bring in Kyron Drones in this game for a little bit in terms of running ability, just to a package for him. Throw it into the game with maybe 2 running backs or 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers, or 2 running backs and tight end, wide receiver, and try to do it that way. You gotta find a way to be creative. I would also say, going into this game, Tate McWilliams is for sure not going to play. He might be medically registered at this point, but they have not decided that yet at running back for him. Just to keep that in mind, he's still out with that concussion since the BYU game. I will also say we don't know about Monterey Baldwin in this game. We're going to find out later on this week from this recording whether he's going to play or not. So that's another thing. But I do have a hunch and a good feeling that Craig Williams will be available for this game. He worked out yesterday on Monday. So that's good news. And he should be ready to go for the Texas Tech game, which will be huge. Especially when you could have Richard Reese, Quellen Jones, and Crux Williams. You got 3 good running backs, and Jordan Jenkins. Let's not forget about him, because I think he could get a few carries if he needed to. So, and just take care of the ball. I will say this across the board: limit the penalties, of course, and you got to bring the energy and match the same energy level as Texas Tech, and say we're not going to back down to you at home, despite you having a home game here. So, and you got to also not let the outside noise affect you and hyperventilate you as a player. You got to stay calm as possible and try to take away the crowd noise out of this game as much as you can. And it is if you can, as much as possible, just to keep them down, because I know they can be really rowdy and are really, really tough place to play here in Lubbock. So that's just, and Cole Maxwell, I don't know about him in particular, so I don't think he's going to play this week on defense, but we'll wait and see. But I will say, both teams on the same position, 4-3, 2-2 in the conference. This is an important game here, and just in terms of like standings and all that, you know. But I will say Baylor needs to show Texas Tech's defensive line and the physicalities and the D line, like offensive line, who's boss, and just match their energy and wear them out. Like I said, because if you could overcome that storm, and I mean, like in terms of like crowd noise and getting your head and get ready for hand signals, and just in case you can't hear anything. So that's just my thoughts on the game. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and that's gonna be the 400 subscribers more by the end of this year. I went into a lot of deep detail on this, and you can check out the stats I got in the description below, so y'all could keep track of that during the game too.